Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, the opposition has threatened us and our violence, says the BJP. The government has drowned out our voices, says the opposition. This session of Parliament, one way or the other, has come to a disastrous close, with opposition protests outside Parliament. The government demands an apology and says the opposition was determined to shut down this session of Parliament. But the opposition say, if you don't debate what needs to be debated, then who's at fault? Next up on the programme, and it's a 1-hour special today, the Congress questions why no action had been taken against the BJP's Chief of Information Technology by Twitter for seemingly the same violation that led to restrictions on social media accounts of Rahul Gandhi and scores of its members. Is Twitter being selective in who it blocks? And finally, massive concerns over breakthrough infections of COVID in Kerala. Some reports indicate that 43,000 may have been infected despite at least one vaccine dose. The information is somewhat sketchy on whether this is a new mutant, but reinfections reflect a frightening concern, the rate of reinfections. Well, let's just go across now to Derek O'Brien, the Trinamool Congress leader, who joins us right up off the top. Thank you, Derek, very much for being with us. Now, apparently there is a Rajya Sabha report which names one of your leaders, Dola Sen, as having been one among three who manhandled or pushed somebody over there in the Rajya Sabha, a member of the security team over there. How would you respond?
Total trash. I don't believe any Rajya Sabha report. They're trying to deflect the attention. I've got 8 straight questions. They fielded 8 ministers today. 8 ministers for the press conference. I hope those ministers are listening. It's been 5 hours. They haven't responded. I've got straight 8 questions. Please answer these 8 questions. Try and answer one. This whole plan to disrupt Parliament was the BJP's, not the Trinamool Congress or the DMK. 8 questions. Number 1, Mr. Shom, I'll quickly go through 8 questions.
No, but you haven't really answered my question, Derek.
Why
you
was
go through your 8 points.
I'll tell you why
the biggest central allegation is one of violence. And therefore, I just need to clear this up.
Mr. Shom, you need to know who set this up.
No, but was there violence or not? Was Dola Sen involved in pushing a marshal?
No, Mr. Shom, I will not. Mr. Shom, I will not fall into the BJP trap of responding to their narrative. We didn't do it in Bengal, we will not do it today. If you want me to tell you the opposition point of view, I have to ask the 8 ministers the 8 questions. If you think my questions are not appropriate, you may say good evening and then we can enjoy the rest of the
Derek,
evening.
you're welcome to raise all your 8 points. But you are denying that this took place, that Dola Sen was not involved in any violence. I just need to clarify that. I will not even respond. It's below my dignity to respond to what a Rajya Sabha report has said. They are all the Tota Pakis, they are all the parrots of the BJP. All is dictated by Modi, Shah and their cronies. All from top to bottom, it's all dictated. So the point that, all right, that's all I was asking for, a clear denial. I take that. The points you were trying to make on why this has happened.
Yes. Now let me ask you, let me make my argument very simple. This argument will show how BJP disrespects Parliament. That's important, they don't care. One, constitutional amendment bill for OBCs, so important. Devi Gowda ji participated in the voting. Manmohan Singh ji participated in the voting. Yes. Where was Prime Minister Modi when the constitutional amendment bill was passed? Where was he? 2, why were 38 bills passed in Parliament at an average time of 10 minutes per bill? If you leave the OBC out, so it means they are bulldozing legislation. 3, yes. Why have only 1 out of 10 bills sent for parliamentary scrutiny? In earlier years, that number was 60 to 70%. Now it's down to 10% are sent to parliamentary scrutiny. Number 4, ordinances. First 60 years in India, 1 or 2 of bills were ordinances. Out of 10 bills, 1 or 2 were ordinances. In the Modi government, it's now almost 3.7 bills ordinances. Now, number 5, answer these questions. Mr. Ministers, 8 guys who come like parrots. Answer this. How many questions has the Prime Minister of India answered in the Rajya Sabha in the last 5 years? The answer is 0. Manmohan Singh answered 22. Number 6, 2 years have gone by. Why hasn't the Modi-Shah government appointed a Lok Sabha speaker? These are the questions. Number 7, why didn't the government allow a discussion on internal security and the farm laws? Every opposition party wanted it, but Modi and Shah said no, we don't want it, so we won't
Derek,
discuss
there
it.
is a response which
and
they
my
gave in that press conference.
My last one, Mr. Shah, Mr.
Shom, but you've called me Vishnu all your life, so please continue to do so.
No, you are Vishnu to me off camera. Here we are, Mr. Shom.
All right, Mr. O'Brien, go right ahead.
Vishnu for old time's sake. Okay.
Thank you very much. Point number 8.
Whose responsibility is to run parliament? Government, opposition? Here's the trick of Modi and Shah. Listen to this carefully. The parliament, government. So government is responsible to parliament, and through that they are accountable to the people. Modi and Shah have a simple Gujarat model. Get parliament disrupted.
Okay.
So we are not accountable to the people.
Okay, now Derek, you've made lots of points. Now you need to let me, I need to ask you some questions, because they have responded as the government to a lot of the points that you have mentioned, and they have said, and I quote, this was one of the leaders said,
not one.
When it suits them, they will allow the House to function, else they hold it hostage. Number 1. They have said, going back to that earlier point, a lady marshal was manhandled. Opposition's behavior in the Rajya Sabha was a new low for parliamentary democracy. This was what Piyush Goyal said. There were 30 marshals, 18 men, 12 women. No one from outside was brought in. So the allegation was that they were outside people. They say that's not happened.
Vishnu. How many marshals there? Who was there? Who put up a gender shield? I'm not going there. Parliamentary democracy is being murdered in every session in India. I've put out 8 questions. Can they respond to one of those 8 questions? This is not why it's happening. You know, I've given you 8 solid. They don't have a reason. 1 minute, Mr. Vishnu. Please understand who runs this government. Modi and Shah. They don't want to be accountable because we as MPs are representatives of people, and the first spot where the government is accountable is to parliament. So listen, Modi and Shah are not accountable for anything they do. So it's in their interest, listen to what I'm telling you, it's in their interest, hold up parliament, disrupt parliament, you put the opposition, and opposition will react. We're not going to sit there and suck lollipops, and then you make a narrative saying that, see, the opposition disrupted parliament. No, Modi and Shah are not answerable to, they don't want to be answerable to parliament. Imagine the cheek not coming for that constitutional amendment bill, OBC. I had Dr. Manmohan Singh, he sat through 6 amendments.
Okay, all right.
Prime Minister Devi, former Prime Minister Devi
here's another point, Derek,
not only
they did
sat
mention,
through 6.
The point that you've raised is that they have pushed through legislation completely. There is another point that they have said. They've said, and I quote, we had to take a decision to end the monsoon session early because, and I'm quoting the opposition, they were literally threatening that if we attempt to pass other bills after the OBC and insurance bills, there will be even more serious damage in Parliament. I think this is attributed to Prahlad Joshi.
This is classic. You know,
basically saying that if they had more time, they would get more business done.
This is classic.
When you allege that work is not being done.
Please listen to me. This is classic Modi Shah. I'm laughing because I've seen this in Bengal for 3-4 months. Mamta Banerjee played Ludo with them in Bengal. Why? Because it's classic Modi Shah. They are the oppressors, but they want to come across as the meek and they are the oppressed. This is classic Modi Shah. You tried to do your thuggery in parliament. You've done your thuggery in parliament with parliamentary democracy, but it's a serious issue. Vikram, it's a very, very serious issue.
Right.
And I'll tell you why it's a serious issue. There is a parliamentarian I met this morning, Vice President of Trinamool Congress, Yashwant Sinha. Yesterday, Sharad Pawar has been going to parliament, he says, for 55 years. You know what Sharad Pawar told me yesterday, saying, Derek, in 55 years, I have never seen such murder of democracy.
No, I've got his
in
quote.
Parliament.
It is
Sharad
painful.
Pawar
It is an
saying
attack on democracy, right? And that he's never seen anything like that. Look, it's very
No,
sad,
look
one
at
way or the other, that
Look
this is
at the
taking place.
arrogance. No, you have, listen to me.
So then what happens in the next session? This continues like this. Because you haven't got your answer. Yes, there is no answer, for example,
that you'll have to
on
ask.
Pegasus.
See, I have all respect for the, I'll tell you, I have all respect for the Prime Minister and the Home Minister as the position of Prime Minister and Home Minister. But from what we've seen, this is not some aberration. This is a trend. This is a trend. Please understand, this is a serious
And so therefore,
trend.
in the next session of Parliament, what happens? This continues. The fight continues.
My solution is, these thugs have to be shown the light, the reality has to be shown. So civil society have to stand up, the media has to stand up, people have to talk. Today, for example, a young man who was an activist for 7-8 years, Saket Gokhale, an RT activist, he came and he said, sir, after you won Mamta Di, won Bengal, Abhishek Banerjee won Bengal, I want to join Trinamool, I can't be an activist. That's the kind of thing which is needed. A famous, an internationally renowned, a lady who's known internationally, came and said, Mr. O'Brien, can I contribute in any way? This is a renowned lady. I want to write a few posters for Parliament. Right. This is the way we have to go. Students have to stand up. We can have differences of opinion.
Okay.
We can have differences of opinion.
Derek, lots of larger points on the way forward. But, you know, I mean, it's been a complete fiasco in Parliament, one way or the other, and it's sad for our democracy. Again, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a loss for people in this country.
I completely agree with you, Vishnu. I completely agree with you. But you know you're in trouble when what are 8 ministers doing on a Friday afternoon, letting out video through ANI. I've got 20 videos. I will not let out a single video. You know why?
Yeah, no, that's another point. Why was that footage actually allowed? You're not allowed to release that. Others have gotten in trouble.
Vishnu, I will tell you why. No. Listen. I'm with Mamta Banerjee's Trinamool. Okay. So don't expect milk and honey. You give me, I'll give you back. If you censor Rajya Sabha TV, if you censor the media, what will I do? I will use my mobile phone and I will shoot.
Okay.
But this is not about video footage.
All right.
Story,
okay.
Mr. Vishnu, last point. This story is not about video footage. This story is 8 questions. Modi and Shah did not want Parliament to run because they do not want to be accountable to the people.
All right. So you mentioned those 8. You mentioned those 8 points, and you say there is no answer. Thank you, Derek, for sharing those perspectives. We need to leave it at that. I need to continue with this debate with my panel at this stage. I'm joined by Kirodi Lal Meena, Rajya Sabha MP of the BJP, PKD Nambiar, someone who supports the BJP, also joined by the Rajya Sabha MP of the NCP, Dr. Fauzia Tehseen Ahmed Khan. Let me go across to Dr. Fauzia first. Ma'am, you know, all of these allegations of violence, you felt that there were instances in which, you know, you were pushed around and you were abused as well. Is that right?
Yes, there was indignity against women, bad behavior with the women, but I was not there in the well. We were standing and protesting from our own seats. So I saw things happening there. I am witness to that, but it didn't happen with me. But nevertheless, whatever has happened is very unfortunate, because I feel that the sanctity of the Parliament is very important. But more than that, the sanctity of the Constitution is, you know, much more important than that. And whatever is happening is because the Modi government is just not allowing people to speak in the Parliament. The notices for 267 were given every day, every single day by the opposition, that we want to speak on certain very, very important issues, but they were not allowed.
Okay.
So, you know, I will call this government a shut-up government.
All right.
Because
all right, let me get a perspective on that. I'm joined by Kirodi Lal Meena as well. मीना साहब, ये बताइए, ऑपोजिशन मेंबर्स को कहना है कि उनको जो भी कहना है वो मना किया जाता है, कोई डिबेट नहीं होता है, पेगासस के बारे में कुछ जवाब नहीं मिला अभी तक, तो शट अप गवर्नमेंट बन चुका है ये, मतलब अगर कोई किसी ने कुछ बताया तो सरकार शट अप कहता है, उनको जवाब नहीं देता है। तो इस पे आप कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे?
Sir, it was an unfortunate scene I never saw in the career of my 40 years parliament career. जो ये कह रहे हैं कि बोलने नहीं दिया जाता, मुझे सहित 1 दर्जन लोगों ने किसानों के मामले पर नोटिस दिया था, जिसमें जयराम रमेश भी थे, और पार्लियामेंट में चेयरमैन साहब ने अलाउ किया था बोलने के लिए, लेकिन तो बोलना ही नहीं चाहते हैं, ये तो हिंसा फैलाना चाहते हैं।
पेगासस के बारे में तो कोई स्ट्रेट जवाब नहीं मिला किसी को। Was Pegasus used or not? There was never any clear answer. Did India ever acquire it? There was never any clear answer.
But they did not
yes
want
or
to
no is what they were looking for, sir.
But they did not want to discuss on the farmers. The notice was given for the farmers. Even I was.
No, but sir, this was something that came up.
Notice on the farmers,
it is an international scandal.
They did not participate in the issue of the farmers, and they approached the house, disturbed the house, और जिस ढंग का उन्होंने बिहेव किया चढ़ के, वो आप जानते हैं, आप अपने वीडियो में दिखा रहे हैं, ऐसा कभी भी नहीं हुआ, और कोई मना किसी परमिशन नहीं कर रहे हैं। तो उसका तरीका ये नहीं कि आप चेयरमैन की कुर्सी पर कागज फेंक दो, बुक फेंक दो।
Okay, so that's a valid point. Dr. Fauziya, that is a valid point. Nothing justifies violence. You can disagree with this government, but the images that we actually had up on our screen, and let's play that out again, does anything justify that? You know, papers being torn, the floor of the house being, you know, I mean, pushing, taking place over there. This is chaos. This is unbelievable. Does anything justify that? Go ahead, Dr. Fauziya.
Should I respond?
Yes, ma'am, please do.
What I wanted to say is, yes, I agree with you that the dignity of the parliament has to be upheld, but you know what this government is focusing on, and it has always been doing that they don't speak about the action, they speak about the reaction. So it's always the reaction which is shown as a narrative, because what has led to all this is very important. When an MP is representing people in the parliament, that MP is not an individual. That MP is representing a large number of people. The MP is the voice of the people in the parliament. And if you want to stifle that voice, if you are not allowing the person to speak, that means you are making a mockery of the constitution. Because if the person, the MP, who is a voice of millions of people, representing those people, so it's not his voice or her voice, it's the voice of the constituency that he represents. And if that voice is not allowed to be brought into the parliament, I think that is the main issue. And you are talking about the reaction that took place.
Yes.
Yes, it's very unfortunate. But when the government talks about dignity of women, I want to say that I am very upset to see that Lady Marshall has been manhandled. But at the same time, honorable MPs also have been manhandled. And when we talk about dignity of women, we must also talk about what happened few minutes ago in the parliament when we were talking on the Constitution Amendment Bill. A representative of the government, Mr. Athavale, a minister is the government, I must tell you that.
Yes.
He speaks, he tells there that agar tum karoge danga to main tumko kar dunga nanga. Is that allowed in the presence of women? You call
shocking.
This dignity
That's
of women? When we are trying to...
In a situation like this, does anything justify... Now, right up off the top, nothing justifies what we've seen in terms of this violence. But does anything justify this sort of language?
And then what we are trying to speak is about the...
Ma'am, just half a second, let PKD Nambiar respond to this. Yes, Mr. Nambiar.
Vishnu, such kind of words that too used in the parliament is definitely, it's unpardonable, and it is not expected out of, forget about an MP, from a minister, to no way. So I definitely, all the civilized people should condemn it. But Vishnu, look at the way both opposition and the treasury today is claiming that what they have done is very good. One is saying that we have allowed, the other one is saying we have not been allowed. But imagine 135 crore people have elected these people to go and create, debate, discuss and create laws for the welfare of the people using my money and your money, taxpayers' money. They have not only washed out the monsoon session, but the hope of the 135 crore people. They all are living in a air-conditioned, cushioned bungalows. They're all living in a, they all get business class tickets and first class
but what does that have to do with
tickets
anything?
and servants. No, what I wanted to tell you is that they have the behavior of these MPs in the parliament. Is that they are called as the leaders? Do you think that is that the kind of
but
the leaders
is there
are supposed
leadership
to show
associated,
how the
Mr.
people used to be
Nambiar,
doing?
with not allowing the opposition to raise the issues that they want to? Is there?
Let me ask you this humble question, Vishnu, that even if at all, let us accept for a minute that the Treasury bench has not even accepted it. Let's assume for a minute. The behavior of the people, the MPs who are supposed to be educated, representing the millions of people, are jumping on the table.
No, but it's an act of desperation because nobody is answering their questions. Nobody is taking it to select committees.
Tomorrow, so Vishnu, I will give you a tight slap and I will say that it was out of desperation. Will it?
No, it doesn't. No, nothing justifies violence. But the central theme over here is that this is the government that doesn't allow the opposition to raise the issues that they want to and get an answer.
Vishnu,
that it's
Vishnu,
nobody is justifying the violence. Nobody, sir. Mr. Nambiar, it's horrible.
Vishnu, Vishnu, one thing I'll tell you. We always claim every day in the morning to evening we are the largest parliament, world's largest democracy. Is that the temple of the parliament, temple of democracy is called as parliament? Is that what we are showing to the world?
But,
this is the way our
but
parliament
that temple
functions?
is meant to debate and discuss.
Number two, it cannot be either my way or a highway. You also have to understand. I wanted to.
But that's exactly what the opposition argues of the centre.
My question to the honourable MP from the NCP, the one is that both farm laws and the Pegasus, both the issues are now lying in the Supreme Court. Why you have not even allowed in the first day of the parliament? Forget about it. I am talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Forget about it. Even for a day, from the first day, you came in the way that you will not allow the parliament to function unless you talk about these issues. Today, the 7 ministers have outlaid one by one the day or chronological
Mr. Nambiar,
events. That
if there are allegations of thousands of people in this country, being snooped upon by agencies, it's an invasion of privacy, it's an invasion of one's liberty, and they can't raise it and expect a direct answer.
Yeah, Vishnu, do you know that a few days ago to the Kapil Sibal, the Supreme Court said,
but if it comes to the Supreme Court, doesn't mean it can't happen.
I'm just saying, what did he say? What did the Supreme Court say? Supreme Court said that if the matter is in front of us, don't go and don't do it in the public debate. I'm not saying that should not be debated in the parliament.
No, it's not a public debate if it's in parliament, sir. It's a different kind of debate.
No, I'm saying.
I mean, it's not a television. Parliament is not a television channel.
No, one thing only I'm saying, Vishnu, if it is a Pegasus is not discussed, I'm not going to the merit of that importance. Does that mean that the entire monsoon session, because of either my way or a highway attitude, you will not let
that's
it
a valid
happen?
point.
That is not acceptable.
Dr. Fawzia, at the end of the day, should there not be an effort by the opposition to actually look at the larger picture, that you're serving people in this country, you're serving more than 1 billion people in this country. And therefore, yes, Pegasus is horrific, but you need to allow business to be transacted.
Yes, I agree with it, but it was not obstructed in that way. When the opposition is representing the voices of people, when you are saying that things are in court, so that's why we can't talk about it in parliament, I feel a court deals with things, when something happens. After that, it goes to the court. It's a post-action.
Okay.
But here in Parliament, we need to discuss concerns.
All right.
What we are concerned about, what can happen. So why shouldn't the people be allowed to discuss that in Parliament? And if the people want it, privacy is not a small issue.
Okay.
Tomorrow, your women and your children's
all right.
bathrooms
so the
and
point that you're
bedrooms
making,
may
ma'am, that
become
these are
visible.
important
People
issues
may watch them.
and a way needs to be found to actually discuss it. I'm out of time on this debate. I need to take a short break. Up after that, we'll be looking at the other issue on Twitter censoring, blocking the accounts of Rahul Gandhi and several other Congress leaders. The question being raised is that, is Twitter being consistent in who it chooses to block? That's coming up. Welcome back. Well, we are now joined by the Congress leader, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. We've been looking at the complete breakdown in this session of Parliament and allegations by the BJP that the opposition was determined not to allow this session to continue. The opposition says that their voices have been shut out. But nothing really does justify that violence on either side. Dr. Singhvi, thanks very much for being with us. Now, the government had this huge press conference today. There were more than 6 leaders who were present, responding to what happened in Parliament today, one of the lows in Indian parliamentary history. And the government says that the opposition's behavior has been disruptive and threatening behavior that forced Parliament to close 2 days early. How do you respond?
Vishnu, you are known for a sober, sensible voice. So allow me just 2 minutes to explain the sequence. Yeah. Because otherwise a lot of misinformation is floating around and people just start shouting and talking of things without knowing the issues. Very, very briefly, this should be divided into 3 issues or 3 phases. Till, let us say, 2 or 3 days ago, I'm just giving you broad phases, there was the Pegasus issue. Now in Pegasus, we had the strange case where we had made our declaration clear 2 weeks ago that you, Mr. Government, have said, we are prepared to discuss, but outside Parliament. Is it possible to say it? Number 2, you, the government, have not said one simple statement we want from you. I did not deal with Pegasus in any department, or I did not in any manner use Pegasus, which I have not acquired or have acquired. 2 lines are required. No, we will not make that statement. Therefore, we said we will not allow anything unless you agree to a discussion on Pegasus in Parliament. The reason the government has not agreed to the single most important surveillance and intrusion and privacy issue in Parliament for the last 3 weeks is because they know they can be nailed by a yes-no question to a privileges committee and various other actions, because they have to say yes, no. If it's then found out that you are wrong, then you are in trouble. That's point 1. That was a disruption till 2 days ago. Point 2 was when we agreed to a farm discussion. Now, just listen very carefully. Take 1 minute more.
Yeah.
We agreed to a farm discussion. What is a farm discussion? Are we here to educate ourselves about agricultural productivity generally? Or are we talking of people on the borders and near Delhi for 9 long months through heat and summer and cold and winter and rain, braving it out there, agreed to have a discussion on that. Suddenly you come to the house and you find that Vishnu Sob's adjournment motion has become a short duration discussion. Secondly, Abhishek Singhvi's motion has become a motion to discuss agriculture generally in the country. So are we children? Are we kind of a... So that was the second reason for the disruption when Mr.
But Dr. Singhvi, let me ask you.
Only 1 second. Just give me a second. Mr. Bajwa did get onto the table. Nobody wants to. Nobody likes to do it. He threw a rule book at an empty chair. It was right in the heat when the motions which were advertised were changed and the topic was changed. Right. Lastly, the third issue yesterday. Funnily enough, the only debate which took in Parliament, I was the lead speaker. Only one debate, OBC. I opened the debate in Rajya Sabha. I was standing right there before the scene yesterday evening till about 5 minutes before the scene I left the house after voting was over. Hardly 3 minutes or 4 minutes before. Now, what happened then was only one thing. You had agreed to OBC discussion. You suddenly at the end rammed through an insurance bill.
She said we had to take a decision, to end the monsoon session early because they were literally threatening, the opposition was literally threatening the government that if they attempted to pass other bills after OBC and the insurance bills, then there'd be even more serious damage in Parliament. So their repeated point is that the opposition was threatening, was physically threatening in many cases.
Wrong, wrong and wrong. And do you think this government is threatened by anyone? If they were threatened, they would not have had the entire session as a washout. Do they listen to us? We have been pleading. I'll tell you why it is wrong. Please ask Mr. Prahlad, how many bills did he pass in a session where there was no debate, no discussion, barring one bill where I opened, that is OBC. Let us keep OBC aside. and I mean counterpart in the Lok Sabha also the same discussion. Leaving aside that, you passed 38 bills. 38. Now, if you have taken upon yourself that you know that I will not discuss Pegasus, I will not agree that I will discuss Pegasus tomorrow, day after, or 5 days later. I will rather have Parliament not having a session and discussion. And then you will insist on passing bill, and then when OBC is over, you say today at 6 o'clock we will initiate, mark my words, Vishnu, initiate insurance, which at the most you could have put next day and you would have seen. Possibly the same approach would have been there by us that discussed Pegasus, otherwise no. But you rammed it at 6 o'clock, which is when this ugly incident occurred.
Right.
And where is the question of threat? There is no question. I mean, this was, Mr. Pawar is a very senior leader. If he says something like 55 years, I have not seen women MPs being manhandled. He and I left just before that, by the way.
All right. Well, very unfortunate scenes over there in Parliament. Dr. Abhishek Manu Singh, we thank you very much for being with us. I need to move on to my next debate. The Congress has questioned why no action has been taken against the BJP's Chief of Information Technology by Twitter for seemingly the same violation that led to restrictions on social media accounts of the party, of Rahul Gandhi and scores of its members. They've been blocked on Twitter for the moment. Joining us now, Sushmita Deb, National Spokesperson of the Congress. Apramaya Radhakrishna is the co-founder and CEO of KOO. And I'm joined by PKD Nambiar, somebody who supports the BJP. Sushmita, let me come to you first. Is it the belief of the Congress party that Twitter, which is international, is beholden on this government and is selective in who it blocks and who it doesn't?
Absolutely. I think the sequence of events that have followed since the 2nd of August makes it crystal clear that there's no parity in the way their rules have been enforced. It is absolutely, one cannot explain why a Amit Malviya, who posts the name of the Hathras rape victim, faces no consequences, why the SC Commission, who posts the picture of the victim's mother on 2nd August, faces no consequences.
Yep.
And as soon as Rahul Gandhi ji posts the picture on 4th, Twitter is very quick to react to that. If they had taken action on the 2nd, when SC Commission posted the picture, maybe 4th wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And apart from that, the rules of Twitter itself says that any information that's already in the public domain, whether it's your telephone number, your photographs, and you post it after that, there is no violation of privacy. So if SC Commission had already posted it, the picture of the mother, Rahul Gandhi posting his video doesn't fall foul of this rule.
Okay, all right. PKD Nambiar, the examples that Sushmita Deb has raised are absolutely clear. For example, this tweet apparently of Amit Malviya, the Congress youth president has said, "Dear Orange Twitter, she is the mother of a rape victim. It's been 10 months now. Tweet and account is still there. Modi ji se permission nahi mili kya?" The point being that Twitter is selective. Shouldn't Amit Malviya's account be locked down as well?
There is no doubt Twitter is selective. Twitter is not selective from today. Twitter has been selective from the last couple of years.
No, but so would you therefore agree that Amit Malviya's Twitter account should be shut down?
Absolutely.
You agree?
No, I'm not. Let me tell you. Let me come to the point. I have been, at least in your own channel, multiple times said that the hypocrisy of Twitter with regard to different content, different strategies and different rules applied. The application of rules for the Red Fort violence is being treated different. Soyas in the Manhattan.
Mr. Nambiar, why don't you say directly? I asked you a direct question. You're a direct person.
I'm saying that anybody.
Why don't you say Amit Malviya's Twitter account on the basis of this tweet should also be blocked? Are you willing to say that?
Let me tell. Can I say you this? Whether it is Amit Malviya or even for that matter anybody whomsoever put a picture of a victim's photo is not acceptable to me.
Okay.
There is no doubt about it.
All right.
The problem with the Twitter, there are two things in this. One, the Twitter is Hippocratic aspect. Second is from the last 3 months, whether India's IT minister's account was suspended or blocked for few minutes or few hours. The vice president's accounts was being blocked or suspended for a few minutes, or many other RSS functionaries accounts were blocked or suspended.
So they are not biased is what you're saying.
The Congress stand, no, 1 second. The Congress stand on your channel or in multiple channels where they were laughing it out. They were all saying that it is also a plan. Today, when that is applied to Rahul Gandhi, then the whole Congress gang is coming up and saying that, oh, Congress, it's all done by Modi or a Shah. I think this is where the problem. I think a multinational company, it is inconsistent in its rule application. It is not available in public domain, any information. They need to be handled with the current law available
so
in
one
this
moment,
country.
Sushmita, would you like to
Congress should
respond to
not
this?
play
The
politics.
point made by Mr. Nambiar is this: there were occasions when the Vice President's account was blocked for some time. There were other leaders also who he has named.
Account.
RSS leader, the lead account of the RSS. At that stage, he says the Congress had no problems, but you have problems now because it affects you. So he alleges that perhaps you have a double standard.
See, if some BJP leader or minister's Twitter account has been blocked by Twitter, it's no reason for us to rejoice. It's irrelevant. It's between Twitter and them. All we are saying is, please understand that if you look at the sequence of events, what is it that triggered between the 2nd of August and the 4th of August that Twitter acted suddenly after the
it's all there in the
block?
Twitter. It's all available on the Twitter how the Congress gangs have that time
Are we allowed to
celebrated
interrupt?
the
Then I should have been
manipulated
told
media.
One second,
It's
Mr.
the
Nambiar, let her
toolkit.
finish. She didn't
This
say
is
a
not
word
fair.
when you were speaking. Go ahead, yeah.
I mean, you can't bulldoze
I
and
agree.
prove yourself right. Now, what I'm saying is, what is the explanation for the fact that on 2nd of August, when SC Commission posted those pictures, why is it that Twitter didn't kick in? It is the NCPCR, National Commission for Children Protection, that allegedly filed a complaint.
Yes.
So NCPCR, were they sleeping when Amit Malviya posted that thing? It is crystal clear that this has been motivated and instigated by the BJP to take action, because this was inexplicable what happened in Delhi. It is a heartless case that repeated itself in Delhi, and the government was in a very embarrassing position.
Okay.
So they did some arm twisting and some manipulation and ensured this happened. That's the truth.
Aprameya Radhakrishna, let me come to you as co-founder and CEO of KOO. Just a larger question. Would you be willing to shut down the accounts of anybody who broke the rule? Or would you be under some sort of pressure to say that, okay, I'll be careful about this, and this account I'll go ahead and I'll block?
So one, as a social media intermediary, we keep away from passing judgments ourselves, right? So in any case, there will be a content level action that is required, and there is an account level action, right? So with respect to KOO, we will follow the law of the land. If there is a piece of content which is reported to be against the law of land, and there is further action to be taken, as requested by the authorized law enforcement agency, appropriate action on the piece of content that is in question will be taken.
What if there is no request from the law authority? What about something, had this sort of tweet apparently made by Amit Malviya, naming the mother or showing the mother of a rape victim, if that appeared on your on KOO, would you not be obliged to take it down?
No, so we act upon user reports. So there are black and white scenarios and there are gray scenarios, right?
So is that a gray scenario, what I named to you?
No, so it's a black and white scenario, but we give it in the hands of the community. So we want the community to actively come and flag off content, whoever it is, to come and say, okay, this is something that is against the law of the land, and here is the authorized law enforcement agency and what they're saying about.
No, but sir, the law enforcement agencies wouldn't necessarily go after every tweet. Law enforcement agencies, for example, have not gone after this Amit Malviya tweet, and there are other tweets which he's made in the past as well. So therefore, it is a political issue in this country. The allegation is that law enforcement agencies will not go after somebody they believe that person's tweet should remain. So the onus is on you to act. Are you willing to do that?
So we operate in the interest of the user, and the biggest question from a user is, who are you to take a decision?
Right.
Right. That is what irritates people when, any other social media platform across the world takes a decision on behalf of the country, on behalf of anybody else. That is something that, so if somebody is saying, Twitter or Coup or whoever else is taking a decision on which is over and above the law of the land, that is what the users don't want, right? So we will,
how do you give the users so much freedom? Because users in a political discussion in this country are entirely based on their political perspective. The BJP hits out at the Congress and says shut them down. The Congress hits out at the BJP and says shut their accounts down. So you give users that much power. And you will base your decision on users.
No, so there has to be active community involvement. Right?
Who is that community, sir? The users are part of a community.
Let's say one side of the political spectrum has said something. The other side of the political spectrum can come and actually complain against it. If a previous
so if both sides want both each other's leaders' accounts to be shut down, you will shut them down.
No, so I'm not saying I will shut them down by my own judgment. I'm saying there is a law enforcement agency which we will abide by.
But that's the key point, sir. The law enforcement agencies, the opposition would say, would not go after the government.
No, if there is an official complaint.
Even if there is an official complaint, sir. An official complaint is nothing but a few sentences on an email or a piece of paper.
No, so then the question has to be asked. No, the question has to be, so we are an Indian company, we have to abide by the law of the land, and the authorized law enforcement agency has to give us a notice of takedown. Right? And the content that is in question is what who will act on. Account level, totally disregarding the freedom of speech of a person is something that who will not do.
I think, sir, the real point, and I think which needs to be looked at is the context. You can say that the police have to complain or the police have to raise an issue, then we will see. But I think what Priyanka Gandhi has actually said today does make sense. It may have been wrong of Rahul Gandhi to have named or shown a particular context, completely wrong. However, the real issue is the brutal rape and forced cremation of a 9-year-old Dalit girl in the heart of India's national capital. Are we not missing that and saying take down his account? What was he trying to say?
No, so as I was saying, in our case,
there has to be a selective understanding of these issues. He's trying to fight for the justice of a 9-year-old child. His Twitter account has been taken down. Is that fair at all?
No, the account, stopping somebody from saying altogether is something that a private company has taken a call on, right? That's what I understand.
All right.
In our case, we do not want to stop freedom of expression.
Right.
The piece of content that is in question will be taken down if
well, sir, you've laid it out and you say that you're going to be fair. Let us hope that that is the case and we don't have discussions on
Can I just come in, Vishnu, for a minute?
Sir, I would love to, but I am completely out of time on this. I need to move on to something which is fairly indisputable, and that is the resurgent numbers of COVID in Kerala. The numbers of cases of COVID after vaccination, according to some reports, as many as 40,000 breakthrough infections are taking place in Kerala. In the Pathanamthitta district, 14,974 people who have got one vaccine have been reinfected, and 5,042 who got 2 vaccine doses have got reinfected as well. So let's just begin this, a quick look at this. I'm joined by Dr. Rijo John and Dr. Anish T.S. Dr. Anish T.S., let me come to you first, sir. Is this a mutant at work?
Definitely not. If you look at the breakthrough infections that is happening in Europe and America, you can see that there is a lot of breakthrough infections because Delta variant is notorious for the immune escape phenomenon. But it is very difficult to pick up breakthrough infections because breakthrough infections may not be severe. So you have to have a real contact tracing. You have to have a look on the community so that many people should be tested to pick up the breakthrough infections. in Kerala,
Yes.
we have got maybe 1.5 crore people has received at least one dose of vaccination. And out of that, 40,000 means only 3 per thousand, which is actually in all over the world. The breakthrough infections, the rate of breakthrough infection is somewhere around 2 to 10 per thousand. It is very well inside the
So as I understand
average.
it, just so that I understand it, sir, are you suggesting that because Kerala has, and correct me if I'm wrong, a relatively higher rate of people who have been double vaccinated and single vaccinated, that whenever there are cases which take place, there is a strong possibility that they could have been vaccinated, but the overall percentage of these people would still be within something which we should consider acceptable? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, definitely.
So like what has happened in the UK, right, where now there is Delta surging over there, there are breakthrough infections, and these would necessarily be breakthrough infections involving those who have been double vaccinated or single vaccinated because they vaccinated more people. So you need to look at the so is it similar? I mean, is that analogy correct?
Yes, definitely. You look at in Kerala, we have got single vaccinated people are more. They are not technically breakthroughs. So after single vaccination, definitely the chances of getting an infection will be very, very high. Technically, breakthrough means maybe two weeks after the second dose of vaccination. If you look at Pathanamthitta is the highest vaccinated in Kerala. 33% of the total community in Pathanamthitta has vaccinated 2 doses. Because of the elderly proportion in Pathanamthitta is much more than that of the state's average. You are getting more breakthrough in areas where more vaccinations are taking place.
Right.
And you can see that the real background infection in Kerala is also high. Suppose you are more prone for a breakthrough. If you go out, you can get a breakthrough in Kerala.
Okay, all right.
There are infections taking place.
Dr. Rijo John with us as well. Dr. John, there is of course that the statistical argument that Dr. Anish T.S. points out, and that's directly linked to the percentage of people who've been double vaccinated. However, we still need to rule out a mutant, right? Something different. How does that happen? How soon can that happen? And should that not be an immediate priority?
Well, Vishnu, to my knowledge, there's no detection of any mutant variant as yet. Kerala is actually leading among many states in terms of doing the genomic sequencing. I'm not talking about testing, even the genomic sequencing in terms of that,
Yes.
Almost 1/3 of the genomic sequences in India is actually being done in Kerala and Maharashtra together. And there is no indication of any different variant as of now. And I believe, I believe many epidemiologists agree too, that Kerala is still catching up with the Delta variant.
Oh, you're catching up with Delta. So you believe that,
yeah.
That's interesting. And is that backed with genomic sequencing? That the point that you're mentioning?
Most of the variant that is spreading in Kerala right now is believed to be Delta and not a different mutation or anything as of now.
But that's
and you
curious,
have to
isn't it?
see it also.
That's curious, Dr. John, that Kerala would not have caught up with Delta till now in this number.
Exactly.
Why would that be
the reason being? The reason being that Kerala's second wave actually started more than a month and a half after it started in the rest of the country. In fact, about 12, a dozen states had already surged, and Kerala's second wave started almost a month and a half after that. So that's one primary reason, I would say. And also, if you look at the ICMR Sero survey that was done in May end, you can see that Kerala's prevalence seropositivity is only 44% compared to the 68% national average. And that also indicates that there is, Kerala still has to catch up with the Delta variant as it happened in other part of the country.
That's interesting. Dr. Anish T.S., I think the bottom line which people on this program would want to hear is how sick are these reinfection cases or these breakthrough infection cases getting? Do we have any understanding of that?
I want to tell two things. One is, Delta is notorious for breakthrough. In India, it is Delta. In Kerala, it is Delta. And we have got very large number of vaccination. But which one is normal? You are trying to capture Delta, or you are getting Delta, or you are not getting Delta. which Kerala, it's actually getting Delta is very understandable because the Delta is very notorious for making breakthrough. That means if you are not able to capture breakthrough, your system has got some issues. So that is the one point I want to make. Second one is, yes, Doctor was also...
No, I was asking about the condition of people, sir, because I'm running short on time. If you can answer that.
Yes. The condition of people is we are running all the genomic analysis, and it is 100% Delta, but it is very mild, and we have got actually 125 deaths per day. We are actually looking on the death rate, and we have to reduce our death rate, but it is not breakthrough. Breakthrough actually we do not face any death. So, higher number of deaths.
So, Dr. Anish TS, the bottom line over here is that if people have been vaccinated, there is still strong evidence to suggest that the severity of the infection is much lower, particularly if you've had two doses, right? That yes. Premise remains.
Definitely, that we have to support that argument, and definitely that is very important. We are going for vaccination because we want to prevent deaths and severity.
It's good speaking to two experts who can break through the clutter and the fear. We are all, of course, scared of COVID, and there's reason to be. But I think there's an explanation over here which needs to be looked at very, very closely. Genomic sequencing also very important as we go forward. I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us out of time on this program. A lot more coming up on NDTV 24/7.